Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. I'm gonna wait for my audience so we can vibe out. It's good to see you guys tonight. These are the most free time for me before my day gets started. So I'm gonna take the time out right now to talk about this, right? The topic is integrating your darkness. And there's so many levels to it, you know, and right now, excuse me, right now is like a time in my life where transformation is happening and I'm being made aware of the darkness that surrounds me, you know, and I know we throw that phrase out there, i.e. shadow work, very loosely, and some of us might not really, you know, understand completely what shadow work is. And I just wanted to talk about it because, you know, I'm being made aware of it in my life. And like I say, there's many levels to it. So when I'm talking about it right now, it could be different the next time I talk about it, but it's highlighted in my life. And it is the quote unquote new year. So I am, you know, transforming at the same time. And what I realized over these years in my early 20s is that a lot of challenges, obstacles, trauma that I faced has come from what I've been through, you know, as a child. And so I've had to sort out certain things, what's healthy from what's not healthy, by myself. And it got me to the point where I am at today. And when I sit with myself and I look at my past self and I say, you know, I could have been more mature, or, you know, I could have made a better decision, as much as I, you know, would like to erase the hands of time, I can't. And so that's forced me in a position to take accountability for some of my more not likable traits. And I could very much well say, you know, something that's a part of my dark side is being in denial about what's right in front of me. You know, here it is. You have a situation in your life where you keep seeing the red flags. I kept seeing the red flags. I kept seeing the red flags, not only with that circumstance, but many others in my life. And I kept making the decision to be optimistic. I kept making the decision to turn those red flags into green ones. And I put myself through the unconscious, subconscious part of unraveling my trauma. As painful as it was, as humiliating as it was, I've realized that certain traits about myself, I have to understand them and I have to make peace with them so that I can be able to grow more and bear more fruit and become more mature and seasoned, you know, as a soul. And at first, I wanted to run from it. I wanted to not really acknowledge those darker parts of me because I'm thinking in my mind, well, I'm just loving someone. How does my decision of loving someone become toxic? How does that become a darker part of me? Well, and I pondered and I reflected, and it becomes toxic and a part of your darkness when it is you being made aware of the red flags, or you being made aware of whatever trauma it is, and you continue to ignore that something needs to change, whether it's that or you. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be you. So there's going to be a lot of choosing of self. And something that was a part of my darkness was not always choosing myself. I always chose the other person, place, or thing. And it wasn't because I didn't love myself. It wasn't because I didn't understand my value or know my worth. It was because simply I never wanted the illusion to be true. I never wanted what was fake to be a lie. I never wanted that. I never contemplated that in my life. And so I stayed many times. I went through that cycle many times, only to come out on the other end and realize you're the problem, Velvet. You're the problem, because now that you've made the decision to engage and you've been aware of the toxicity, and though it came from a loving place and it came from a place of righteousness and healing, you become the wounder to yourself, the abuser to yourself, by accepting the false reality. See, when you don't know something, it creates a different dynamic in your life, because you're in the unknown and you have to face it. And at times I was in the unknowing of certain things. But as time went on, it became clear to me that my decision makings have been toxic, to say the least. And I think about all the things that I could have accomplished. I think about everything I could have did. And some people say, well, why would you keep thinking about what you could have, should have did when you're in your now and that's all you have? Well, that used to was a part of my now at some point. And it's only right of me to reflect on those moments to become the best version of myself. See, I don't want to stray away from my darkness, because I know that if I do, then I'm going to be blinded by my own demise. I want to know what makes me dark. I want to know what makes me inadequate, incompetent, or weak minded. I get a lot of questions or a lot of opinions, and not that it truly matters, but it is a part of my self-reflection, right? My life. Get a lot of opinions say, how could a person ever allow themselves to be in a situation like this? Well, at one point in time, a part of my darkness was thinking that abuse was love. At one point in time, I thought that love was abuse, and I couldn't differentiate the two. And I sat with that, and I lived through it. And so I had to pause on me being who I am to understand who I am, to become more of who I am. And now I sit with myself and still reflect on my darkness, and I try not to judge myself, because I know that every person on this planet is experiencing life from what they were exposed to in those early adolescent stages of life. So if not I had made that decision from my darkness, it would have come to me in a different way. The lesson. So I have to have grace with myself and be patient with myself and forgive myself, because no, it was not all toxic, but it is the very reason why you are where you're at today. And if I don't acknowledge these things and choose and make a decision, then I am liable to stray away from myself yet again. And I have too much to lose. Too much to lose. So I made the conscious decision to acknowledge my darkness. And it started making me feel like overwhelmed with emotions, because life is not just 1, 2, 3. You have an instruction book. So we're all constantly living in the unknown, and the only thing that I could think to myself is, well, let my next move be my best move. And the only person that I can go to feel confident or to make a better decision, or be encouraged, be motivated to make a better decision, you know and to become more of who I genuinely am, is God. And so at this point, I'm just praying to God that I'm released from whatever my darkness is, so that I can stop making decisions from that place. Because yes, my life is evolving, and yes, things have gotten better from the initial year, but I don't want to continue experiencing losses so hard to the point where it's broken me all the way down. I don't feel like I deserve to be in that space, because I've accomplished so much. I've loved so much. I don't want to isolate myself. I don't want to be socially awkward. I don't want to think about not engaging. And I've witnessed other people get to that place, and they abuse drugs. And the only way for me to really overcome the confinement that I feel within my darkness is to embrace it, is to acknowledge it, and blindly have faith in positioning myself to make better choices from a healthier place for everybody around me, especially myself, because I know that whatever decision I make, even if it's for the sake of someone else, it should be in the interest of my well-being. It should be in the best interest of my well-being, because it affects me also. I affect them, and my decisions for them affects me. And so it needs to be healthy all the way around for everyone. And I'm tired of putting myself in positions that allow people to shit on me, make me feel less than what I know I am, and treat me less than what I treat myself. I don't deserve that. I don't deserve to live a life like that. Neither do my children. And as much as I want to forgive certain things from my past because it's tied to my now and my future, I can't allow anything to stunt my growth, because my children are my seeds and they're depending on my fruit. They're depending on my nutrients. I have to nurture them. And anything that cuts off the nutrients to my seedlings gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go. Even if it's within myself. And it can't really go anywhere. What's in within the darkness that's within me can't really go nowhere. It can't escape. So I must embrace it. I have to integrate it. And I've been triggered by what people say, how people live, the way they think. And I've had to realize that I want so much for those around me that I lack giving it to myself. And I need to stop focusing on what other people need and trying to be that provider to give them what they need. But be that provider for myself and give myself what I need. Because just as much as my children deserve my nurturing abilities, I deserve to be nurtured. And I know that I'm the only one who can really, really, really cultivate me outside of God. I had a very dark yearning for a family, to the point where I got myself in a situation having children by men who are that very darkness, because I didn't know any better. Because I was figuring myself out. I was unraveling. So I encourage everybody to embrace their more darker parts, because we can all call out the great things about each other or about ourselves. We always capitalize off the good things. We always talk about the good things. But a lot of people don't want to talk about the dark things, because they say, well, if you think it so much, or if you harbor on it so much, then you're going to manifest that into your reality. Well, isn't it still already manifesting into your reality? Because if it wasn't, you wouldn't have situations that would reflect that back to you, to the point where you have to go inward to do shadow work. So there's different levels to it. But if we're going to talk about healing, if we're going to talk about being the best versions of ourselves, this is the very first thing that we need to talk about, because that's what's running rampant. That's what's out here. You can't even trust anyone anymore to be of a helping hand. The only thing you can think about when you meet somebody nowadays is, are they going to hurt me? What is their intention? What do they want from me? So much so to the point where the people who genuinely supposed to be in your life to support you and uplift you and grow with you and build with you, you even look at that as a target. So we cannot stray away from the darkness. The only way out is through it. And if you try to skip steps, you're going to keep being knocked down to the same level that you never graduated from, because there's a lesson there. We have to remember that it's not just us, it's not just me that's going through this darkness. This darkness I share through a bloodline of women and men and children who've grown to be men and women, such as myself, that have endured trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. I mean, hell, they teach us about it in history. They never teach us the great things that we've done. They only teach us about the darkness that we're still trying to overcome to this day and can't really figure it out because all of the information is whitewashed. All of our communities and neighborhoods are gentrified. We're fighting each other for resources in our community. We're killing and hurting our children and our women and our men in our community because we have no other outlet. We're competing with governmental officials, companies, and the rich just to stay in the game. This needs to be highlighted in everyone's life, because just like that broken poor little boy who went through whatever he went through and is experiencing life from his darkness and making decisions from his darkness, is just as much trauma that a rich white man who had everything that he wanted as a spoiled little brat could have ever experienced. There is a relation there as far as the trauma goes, experiencing the trauma, and it doesn't really, your situation and how it look and how you grew up doesn't really matter. What matters is what you've been through that inflicted the pain. No one's talking about that. We hear people all the time talk about their trauma. I got raped. I got molested. Somebody got killed in front of me. I lost both of my parents when I was 2 years old. I was put into foster care. My family put me out. I had to fend for myself. I had to live out of a car. I had to make money the wrong way. I was a prostitute. These are people's stories. These are people's lives. And we talk about it for 5 minutes and then we go back to ignoring it every single day. This is something that burns in my spirit every single day I wake up. I do not look at this world like, oh, let's go to work. We just got to go to work. We just got to get in this car and drive to work. And then we got to come home and we got to make sure the kids are together. No, every moment of my life, I'm thinking about what is my child being exposed to right now? And what kind of trauma is that going to inflict onto her that I'm going to have to unravel? And am I equipped to unravel it? Let me pray to God to protect my child in this world. Not only from her friends and her teachers and people she's going to randomly meet along the way, but her own father. His own father. Lord, protect us. Guide us, please. Cover us. Because I don't know what's out there. And we all in darkness. You got some fighting to see the light. Some barely making it. How? Lord, show me how do I get it right? So yeah. you know. I appreciate that, love, Hope. Yeah, everything's in alignment. You know, these are just like, this is just like a couple months worth of unraveling and transforming. You understand? It's been a couple months. So, you know, I've experienced a lot these last couple months, and I'm feeling it even more now because major chapters have closed out in my life. Major chapters, major chapters, major chapters. And I just felt like my life, my whole life has been an uphill battle. I feel like it's been an uphill battle, and it's forcing me to, I'm aware of the fight. I, Lord, I I see, like, show me, cuz you know, everybody's, you know, being shown, such as myself, and I just also feel like it's something to bring awareness to within our community, because I've been through something so traumatic to the point where people just think that I should be silent. And I'm like, are you crazy? Be silent. This is real life stuff happening to people who are not on the social media internet. They don't even have a way to contact anyone. They're being sex trafficked at 6, 5, 8, 9, 10, 13 years old. Little girls and little boys. Some children being killed by their own parents right now as we speak. And this is not to like just be a fearmonger or anything like that, but this is something that I've bumped into, thinking that the world is not wicked. I never contemplated the world to be this kind of place. I am 27 years old. 27. That's not too far from 20 years old. And 20 years old is not too far from 15. I was a little girl once, and all I wanted was love because I come from a broken family. I watched my mom and my dad get a divorce. And I wished every single day that my parents could make it work for me, for my siblings. And they just couldn't because of their darkness. I grew up like that. And no, that's not the worst thing that you could have been through in life. But damn it, the pain is no comparison to anyone's situation or to anything, especially if the principles and the core of that person aligns with the trauma that they've been through, to the point where they can feel it hit their core. They're actually feel like they're dying alive from heartbreak. I don't even think most people in this world even have imagined how that feels, rather than ever experiencing it, because everybody's on go, 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 do this, do this for someone else, do that, do that, do that. People please, people please, people please. Everybody's doing something for some. When was the last time you really did something for yourself? And I'm not talking about pampering yourself. I'm talking about really nurturing who you are as a person. No, I'm not talking about getting up and going to the gym. No, I'm not talking about getting up and driving your car some, some to work. I'm talking about, when was the last day, the last time, the last moment that you've spent with yourself outside of something else, someone, where you could just be free? But first, before you become free, you have to liberate yourself from the confinement of your own darkness. You have to integrate it in order to feel limitless. Limitless. And feeling limitless comes without fear. It's just pure faith in knowing that God got you. And God gonna take you from point A to point B if you have your eyes set on him. And if there is ever experience from that faith that exuberates your trauma, not to look at it as something that maybe you shouldn't have ever done, but something that you need to do in order to be able to be aware of your darkness, to start integrating so that you become more light, so that you can experience more life, breathe more life, create more life. But yeah, those who understand will, and those who won't. I'm speaking from my heart. I'm speaking from my heart. And like I said, on those who, catch this message will, you know who you are. It's a little less talking and a more doing at this point. I just have been positioned as an advocate my whole life for environmental extremities and socially reforming the world. That is who I am. We like to call those type of people humanitarians. That's why I'm even blasting on social media in the first place. Because we were becoming the best versions of, or though we thought we were becoming the best versions of ourselves, in which we were granted because of the experience and the wisdom that had come from it. But you have some people that are stuck, even if they've never been in the situation that you guys saw me in publicly. Before all of the social media fame for me, clout and all of that different type of stuff, right? I was in my community. I was holding workshops of 15 to 20 people at a time, men, women, and children, teaching my community about why it's important for us to eradicate or at least apply solutions to economic studies in our environment and extremities that we were facing as a city. As a city, a collective. I'm talking about creating art for our, what do you even call that? I don't even know what you call that, but basically the sewage and water board and our trash can companies and that whole little situationship, how they pump in the water to the city, how they pump it out. I don't even know what you call that on a grander scale. I'm drawing art for my city to bring the youth in, to create a culture of it being cool to be clean, to create a culture for it to be cool to clean up after ourselves, and to point to where we need to look at in our community to become a more holistic community, a more helping hand community, and move further away from our trauma. I'm talking about going to high schools, and I'm a high schooler myself, motivating young people that you should invest in yourself. Who do you see yourself to be? And I'm not talking about from an opinion or a suggestion, rather, that somebody else gave you. I'm talking about, who are you? What do you like to do? We have people for that. Come, sign up for it. Every day in the heart of New Orleans, ready to reform our community, ready to step forward on that front line, because all I'm looking at is women and children, women and children, women and children, women and children. Do you know that when another COVID hits, It's not going to be called COVID. It's going to be called something else. Do you know what that could do to our society? They had to literally give out stimulus checks to our society for us to stay afloat. And what do you think happened to the people who didn't make it and who didn't get those stimulus checks? They had to move somewhere else for resources. Something happens and it hits our grid and our grid collapse. And I'm not talking about for a couple weeks. I'm talking about close to indefinitely. You know what we're going to have to do? Do you know what we're going to have to do? Women and children, single mothers with children. We're going to have to figure out how we going to get food to feed ourselves, because that's going to become a main priority real quick. And I'm not talking about processed food. I'm not talking about convenience. I'm talking about real food. You're not going to know the first thing to do. We're not going to know what the first thing to do. We like to watch Naked and Afraid for fun and think those people are just stupid because they want to be out in the wild butt-ass naked for 7 days, not eating shit but crabs that they caught out of the fucking beach. You know how valuable that is to know how to do? Do you know how valuable that is? And that's only one thing that we're going to have to worry about. We're going to have to worry about rations. Yes, rations. You're not going to be able to just go in your fridge and eat whatever you want. No, nigga, you get a half a cup of chickpeas today. Don't fucking play. Listen, you went ahead and had a whole cup of lentils last week, and I already told you that we was running low. Now, you going to have to slow. Yeah, we're going to be talking about each other about real stuff. You're going to wish you had some seeds then. And like I said, this is not to be fear-mongering. This is not to be fear-mongering. This is real life stuff that happens on an everyday basis. And you can see the algorithm of the earth changing, like, as we speak. Like, why is it springtime already? Why is it spring? And then when it was winter, it really wasn't even winter. It was like fallish winter. Like, come on now. Come on now. You got the phone service towers going out over the nation. You got Facebook and Instagram failing every other month. You got iOS updates every other week, taking up the space in our phones. You got more children on social media now than ever, and that's what even got me in the situation that I was in because of social media. You don't know what your children watching. You don't know what they're getting into. You don't know who they're connecting to. You even got children doing stuff from on social media just because it's quote unquote cool, but it's actually hurting them. Listen, I may not have a regular mind when it comes to thinking about regular shit, like waking up and just going fix something to eat and then going to work, and my thoughts don't end there. I have those thoughts, but my thoughts don't end there. My thoughts are, okay, what move can I make next that's going to ensure me land? What can I do right now to position myself to even acquire land? And where? And for how much? What's the goal? That's my everyday thoughts, because I already know what time it is. We've been warned this for years now, since 2012. 2012, the world's gonna change. We watching these people create concentration camps. Hell, every time they let the borders open and let those people flood in, what do you think those other people going who get stuck on the other side of the border when they close it? And most of the time, all of those people don't even make it through the border, because you still have people over there regulating. And then who's to say what happens to the people who actually make it through the border? Because them motherfuckers sure do be sitting there on Lowe's, in front of Lowe's, on Elysian Fields, waiting for somebody, a random ass person, to come pick them up for work. What do you think happened to these people? They are suffering because they don't have access to resources. Our resources, our birthright, like water, food, regular things, like, are all being controlled. And you have to check in to get some of these resources and exchange time that you spent for your own resource. When you got a whole backyard, I'm talking about a whole acre of land in your backyard, and you can't even start to plant something because you be at work too much to even take care of it, or you be too tired because you got all of these kids and you don't have no help. Or better yet, they done genetically modify every fucking seed that they have ever come into contact with, and they put a patent on it, and held up all of the more held all of the non-genetically modified seeds, and said that if you have planted any of their seeds, knowing that you don't have access to the original seed, that you'll get fined and get incarcerated for it, or potentially sued if you don't fall through the category of being incarcerated for doing that shit. And you got agriculture lawyers now for your birthright. And let's not talk about the water, because the water is even more cracked down than the food. You can't even begin to go harness your own water outside of your neighborhood right now if you wanted to. Right now. And in the state of Louisiana, if you had ever... Do you know how much rain we get in Louisiana? A lot of rain in Louisiana, meaning that we have so much rain that we can actually save the rainwater and recycle it. That's how much rain we get. Do you know that it is illegal to rain catch now? In order for you to go fish, hunt, or do any of those type of things, you have to have a license to do it. That is a birthright. And no, we're not arguing governmental officials because we just want to do what we want to do. No, we're arguing governmental officials because it's not enough resources for everybody in which they provide. Because if everybody had a reasonable amount of access to resources that the government provides, we wouldn't see stuff like homeless people. We wouldn't see places where, you know, people are suffering because majority of a certain group of people are taking up all of the money and leaving the other people stranded to fend for themselves. We would see less of that if the resources wasn't yoked up the way that they were. But we don't want to talk about that because the dollar revolves around it, and the more money you have, the more power, quote unquote power, you have to dictate whether somebody suffers or not. That's fucked up. I literally watched my community kill each other over the dumbest stuff ever. I literally have been in situations where my community fucked over its own kind, or just a human, just because of what they were exposed to as a child, because nobody didn't give a fuck about them. I watched that. I was experiencing it with them. Came across them. Learned about it. This is not okay. This is not okay. This is not okay. The United States of America is in debt, and they're still printing money when they could be recycling the money that's already there. You have wars breaking out. These wars are breaking out because of lack of resource. On top of borrowing from other countries and not really giving anything back because we're overproducing at this point. We're overproducing. And we're overproducing in a very stupid way. So it's catching up to us faster than what it would if we were taking a more resourceful route. to replenish our resources in a more healthy way. And you would think that people in the chambers, in the government chambers, would know this or even contemplate it, because they know that nature can only keep up but so much. But instead, they're just going off the deep end, and every year it gets worse. And every year there's something new with poison in it. And every year something else is happening to the collective of people that's pushing us more into trauma than it is into healing. You know, we all have our personal preferences, and we all think that, certain things are okay, and we're all entitled to what we feel and believe is to be true for us. And there is a fine line between live and let live. But for me personally, I just want to live in a more healthier world. I don't want to continue living under the thumb of a stereotype. It doesn't feel good for me. I feel trapped. I feel like I'm being held hostage. And I know what that feels like, because I was being held hostage in an abusive relationship that I was in. I know what that feels like. I feel like I can't be myself. I feel like if I be myself, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to go to jail. That's what I feel like. And that's not okay, because who I am is not a threat to society. It's to help society, not let alone myself. You understand? Because for what happens to society by my impact is what happens to me on an everyday basis. So that's why it's very important for me to integrate my darkness and understand it, because I have to stop responding from such a dark place when it comes to stepping into my purpose and embracing the power that God has given me, as far as the authority He's anointed me with on this earth. Like everybody has a purpose. God has a will over your life. You have to understand what that is. You have to build a relationship with God to know what that is. This, personally, I feel like this is what it is. I've had a very long relationship with God since I could remember, and it's still ongoing, and it's long enough for me because I've only lived but however much I have. But I know what to be true that resonates within my soul, and I shouldn't be criticized or ostracized for thinking and feeling genuinely how I think and feel. I think people just want to even nail me to whatever it was that they just quote unquote watched me go through. And that's not fair, because nowhere ever in history did that experience start with me. It started with me when I made the decision to love somebody who was pretending to be. It started with me when I made a decision, or when I had made a decision from a lack of wisdom. And now I have to be faced with the facts of the decision that I made. And now I have to figure out what are going to be more healthier decisions that I make along the way when I'm presented with X, Y, and Z, to create a better lifestyle for my children, to create a better lifestyle for myself. What do I want my future to look like? I don't end just because of what I've been through. I don't end just because I went through trauma. I don't end just because somebody hurt me and I'm heartbroken because of it. No, I keep going. I keep going. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. Because my children riding on me. I don't give a fuck about nothing else in this world when it comes to my children. Because God gave me those children. Everybody else, come and go. Come and go. Even family, come and go. My children, though, gonna stick with me forever. They gonna ride with me forever. That's a different type of yoke right there. So my children are gonna be thrown out into this world. I'm putting my children in positions where they're going to be in the world. I need to learn about this world so that I can do the best I can to guide them and protect them. This is what I see. This is what I've seen growing up. This is what I know to be true more than now than ever since I've ever existed. And it's gotten worse over the years. And I need to be aware. And I need to personally start coming up with solutions to protect my children, because I don't want my children out there willy-nilly. I don't want them out there just not knowing anything, consuming things and being around people and being in places that they probably shouldn't be in. I don't want them to have to experience what I experienced because of my trauma or because of my darkness. And I'm not saying that they won't ever experience things like that. I'm just saying, like, I'm capable of being aware. I'm very much well capable to be responsible. And that is all I want. That is all I want. You know? I don't think it's a grooming thing. I think that this is a life thing. I think that people have taken knowledge and have used it to their own personal benefit. That's what I believe. What I'm talking about right now has been talked about way before me. Way before me, way before anybody was groomed. Like, this has been the topic of life, period. Some people, shed light on it more than others. We have people really not shedding light on it. That's why you sitting in my comment section talking about is not her fault, she was groomed. Like, bitch, outside of NB, you're eating poison. You are. I'm eating poison every day, thinking that it's okay. We don't even know. Some of us don't even know. And then when some of us do find out, we mad as fuck because you really just like did that without my consent. We're talking about being a human, but you grew up thinking that that was okay from the jump. So it's hard to stray away. It's hard to unlearn that's okay. It's hard for you to believe that that's not okay because of how you were groomed.